It is the glory of God to conceal a matter. To search it out is the glory of kings. This is the Message to Kings podcast.
Episode 361, What is Truth? And Jesus' Secular Trial. John 18:33. Then Pilate entered the praetorium again and asked Jesus, Are you the king of the Jews? Jesus answered him, Are you speaking for yourself about this, or did others tell you of this concerning me? Pilate answered, Am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you to me. What have you done? Jesus answered, My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight so that I would not be delivered to the Jews. But now my kingdom is not from here. Pilate therefore said to him, Are you a king then? Jesus answered, You say rightly that I am a king. For this cause I was born, and for this cause I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of this truth hears my voice. Pilate said to him, What is truth? The Webster's 1828 dictionary defines truth as conformity to fact or reality, exact according to that which is, or has been, or shall be, or true state of facts or things, veracity, correct opinion, fidelity, honesty, exactness, conformity to rule. So, we know that is truth. It's a noun. But is that how Jesus was speaking of? He says later, the Spirit of truth will come. That's the Spirit that we know of later. But here we are now in our vernacular, truth is a noun. And that is not where he was going in that culture of that day. But truth in the Greek day that Jesus is speaking to, the ancient Greeks defined truth with the word, and I might say it wrong here, aletheia, which states it basically translates to unconcealment or the state of not being hidden. Truth was not just facts on a page. It was not a noun. Truth was technically a verb or an idea. It's the active process of uncovering something or discovering something, finding out something is real and true by going through the process of the research and the discovery to get there. The perfect description is a dark room. You enter it and you shine a flashlight. You reveal what's hidden. That is the Greek idea or the verb of truth, atelia. Now, the Romans, in their very concrete world of, pardon the pun, the engineering pun of concrete, but they're engineers, they're warriors, they're empire builders, they're different breed and different type of people. Their interpretation of truth was almost like a goddess, and it was called veritas. Veritas can be understood as the words on the page, the truth, the facts. That's how we understand truth. That's how the Romans understood truth. That's not how it started. That's not how the Greek world saw truth. But here we are in Judea in this timeline. Pontius Pilate, a Greek culture intermixed with the Judean culture, speaks Hebrew. You got Aramaic going on. You got Greek going on. You got overrulers from Rome. They know truth as facts. The Greeks know truth as ideas and uncovering and revelation. So when Pilate hears about truth, he says, What is truth? Of course he says, What is truth? That's his perspective. He knows of these Stoic philosophers, and he knows of these Greeks, kind of annoyed by him. His nation has conquered the Greeks. So there's a low reputation that he has for these guys. But he does respect their culture. The Romans emulate Greek culture, though they take them over as part of their empire. And he says, what is truth? And that's probably a very, very, very common Roman interpretation of philosophical ideas. Not so interested as I build my empire and rule the nations. So as Jesus speaks to this idea, now we go back to who's saying it. It's the Apostle John. In the beginning was the Word, the Logos. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now he's talking about truth and the spirit of truth. I have to believe John was this lover of, let's just say he was very well educated in Greek culture, because he takes it and I don't want to say he Christianizes it, but he takes the Greek culture and the philosophical ideas, and he realizes they're trying to find God, and he uses their terminology to describe his God, spirit of truth, the Word, the Logos. Go back to the beginning of the New Testament episodes, and you'll see just I think we did almost a whole episode just on John 1, and just how he speaks to his audience, and he speaks through the lens of the day, and he uses the culture and understanding of the day to speak of God and the power of he and his Word, and how the Word was from the beginning, the Logos. But now we're speaking to the truth. And here's Jesus. He earlier says the Spirit of truth will come. But what I find interesting is that he is speaking a language that Pilate would say would be Greek and almost philosophical, while that completely disarms Pilate, and he realizes he is no threat. He's more like a philosopher than a king. Maybe he's one of those philosopher kings. They're not a threat to me, not a man with an army. So Pilate doesn't find Jesus as a threat at all. But let's go back now into our storyline. We will skim over the Jesus's beating in this episode and go back to it. But this is his secular trial, and there'll be 3 secular trials that he has. But it's amazing how fast all these trials are. They are completely rigged. And the trials will just confirm how innocent Jesus is. And it'll say it over and over. He is innocent. It says it right after what is truth. Pontius Pilate says, I find no fault in him at all. The language of some of the Gospels and what it says makes it extremely clear that he's innocent. Another time, Pilate says, I'm innocent of the blood of this just person. Another interpretation of that is righteous person. You see it. When Judas goes back to the high priest and basically gives his money back, says he's an innocent man. He actually says this. Then Judas, his betrayer, this is Matthew 27, seeing that he had been condemned, was remorseful, brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. So there's the innocence again. There's the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. And Jesus goes in our stead while we should face death and punishment. Jesus does it for us. And this is confirmation by the chief priest himself. But the chief priest took the silver pieces and said, it is not lawful to put them into the treasury, because they are the price of blood. They're basically saying it's blood money. It's wrong of us to take this money, put it in the treasury, and curse the rest of the treasury. like it's okay to bribe a person to turn him over, an innocent person, knowing they're innocent. It's like they know they did a wrongdoing, so they're not going to do a greater wrongdoing. It's just crazy how they justify everything by some strange, who cares? Put it in the treasury. Why do you care about that law when you don't care about the others? This kind of strange logic here. But they consult together and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. Therefore, that field has been called the field of blood to this day. And then what was fulfilled was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet. And they took 30 pieces of silver, the value of him who was priced, whom they of the children of Israel priced, and gave them for the potter's field as the Lord directed. It just fulfills prophecy. There's so many prophecies that get fulfilled in this moment. Matthew 27:18 is super interesting. Just before it says, "Therefore, when they had gathered together, Pilate said to them, 'Whom do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who's called the Christ?' For he knew that they had handed him over because of their envy." Pilate has the discernment, and he also, it says that his wife had a dream that he shouldn't do anything to this man of God, or holy man. So Pilate has the discernment. He believes Jesus is innocent, but he has his own constituents, or his own obligation, and his whole obligation is to Rome, and is to collect taxes for Rome and make sure there's peace in the land. That's make sure that people are happy and paying the bills. And when the chief priest rally up the people, it triggers the kind of one insecurity that he has, and that insecurity is rebellion. Even if he puts down a rebellion and kills thousands of people, which he could easily do, it makes him look bad. And that's not what Pilate wants. There's all these opposing factors going on, and accountability. The chief priests don't have the right to kill anyone. They have to go to Caesar to do it. So they go to Caesar to get the approval, but Caesar doesn't want to give the approval. And it's this almost check and balance of everyone confirming that Jesus is innocent. And then they go so far as to Pilate to say he's innocent of their blood. And then the chief priests and them saying it's fine on our head. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It only confirms Jesus' innocence. There's a couple other things that are super interesting. Luke 23. Then the whole multitude of them arose and led him to Pilate. And when they began to accuse him, we found this fellow perverting the nation and forbidding to pay taxes to Caesar, lies, saying that he himself is Christ, a king. And then Pilate said, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And he answered him and said, "It is as you say." So Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowd, "I find no fault in him." But they were the more fierce, saying, "He stirs up the people, teaching throughout all of Judea, beginning from Galilee to this place." And when Pilate heard of Galilee, he asked if the man were Galilean. And as soon as he knew that he belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod. So the first trial was then. Now the second trial, he goes to Herod. Herod was glad. He was exceedingly glad. He desired for a long time to see him because he heard many things. He hoped he'd perform some miracle. Then he questioned him with many words. Jesus said nothing. The chief priests and scribes stood and vehemently accused him. Then Herod, with his men of war, treated him with contempt and mocked him, arrayed him in a gorgeous robe, and sent him back to Pilate. That very day, Pilate and Herod became friends with each other, for previously they had been in enmity with each other. That's a weird verse. That is a very strange verse. Luke 23:12. Pilate and Herod are now good friends. You guys remember forever ago, you got David and Jonathan, who are, it basically says they were best friends forever. And they were such good friends. They were inseparable in the spirit. And to me, that's a good example. These are two believers that were loyal unto death to each other if possible. These aren't believers. So we have to assume, unless God was orchestrating something, this would be more like the opposite. Two men who came together for a dark purpose. Now, we know Pilate thinks he's innocent, but he's still He's willing to let Jesus be put to death to keep the peace with this nation here and for his own status. But all of a sudden, they're now friends. I would suggest, two enemies have been fighting each other, and then God in the flesh shows up. I think you have a greater enemy now, and these two quit fighting each other. So in the third trial, Jesus is sent to Pilate, and you have to know that the religious leaders follow him, and they are aggressively telling Pilate to put him to death, crucify him, crucify him. And this is when Jesus has a discussion with Pilate, and he talks about what is truth. Now, Jesus will talk to Pilate. He doesn't talk to Herod. It's interesting enough. But he will speak with Pilate. And his wife also had the dream where she said, "Do not do anything to this holy man." Pilate doesn't want to kill Jesus. Luke 23:13. Then Pilate, who had been called together the chief priests, rulers, and the people, said to them, "You have brought this man to me as one who misleads the people. And indeed, having examined him in your presence, I found no fault in this man concerning these things in which you accuse him. No, neither do Herod, for I sent you back to him, and indeed nothing deserving of death has been done by him. I will therefore chastise him," that means he would beat him severely, "and release him. For it was necessary for him to release one to them at the feast." And they all cried out at once, saying, "Away with this man! Release to us Barabbas, who had been thrown into prison for a certain rebellion made in the city and for murder." Pilate, therefore, wishing to release Jesus, again called out to them. But they shouted all the more, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Then he said to them a third time. Do you see these thirds? There's a trial, 3 religious trials, 3 secular trials, and now 3 times Pilate tries to get out of it. "Why, what evil has he done? I have found no reason for death in him. I will therefore chastise him and let him go." But they were insistent, demanding with loud voices that he be crucified. And the voices of these men and the chief priests prevailed. So Pilate gave sentence that it should be as they requested, and he released to them the one they requested, who for rebellion and murder had been thrown into prison. But he delivered Jesus to their will. Matthew 27:24. When Pilate saw that he could not prevail at all, but rather that a tumult was rising, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this just person. You see to it." He basically says he's righteous, he's just, I'm innocent of his blood. And all the people answered and said, "His blood be on us and on our children." Isn't that disgusting? And it is no wonder that in 70 AD, with so many warnings, even in the atmosphere, there will be sudden and total calamity over the city of Jerusalem. So let's kind of recap our timeline. It's Passover day 1. It's 6 a.m. when Jesus is led to Pilate the first time. Then he's sent to Herod by about 7 a.m. He's sent back to Pilate, and then he's sentenced to death in that hour. And then in the 8th hour, he'll be scourged, and he'll be led away to Calvary. I won't get ahead of myself on the timeline, but everything's going to move very fast now. But what we clearly have in this episode is the revelation of Jesus's innocence. He is an absolutely innocent of sin, innocent of the corruption that they declare, innocent of the violence that they say about him, innocent of the blasphemy they say about him. Everything about him is innocent. Everything is framed for the pursuit of power. In the words of Pilate himself, the Pharisees are doing it, the religious leaders, out of envy. They're killing him out of envy. The devil obviously wants to kill Jesus. There's no doubt. But they're motivated out of envy. They're motivated for selfish, ambitious reasons. They're motivated because they're demonically possessed. Don't have to go into too much about that. That's all very obvious. But what's important is the fact that the revelation of Jesus' innocence is stated over and over and over, even by the priests themselves. They said it's blood money for a reason, because they're framing him to kill him out of envy. It's abundantly clear. The innocence stated by Pilate is more than obvious. Herod does the same thing. It's very clear. No one has anything on Jesus. And why is that important? Why is that important for Jesus to be innocent? Well, he came to fulfill the law and to take away sin. The Passover lamb in Exodus 12, the requirement was that everyone would take the blood of a spotless lamb and put it on their doorpost. Exodus 12:5 says, "A sacrifice of lamb must be without blemish or spot." This means the animal had to be completely free from physical defects, and without disease. The Levitical sacrifices, the purpose of them was the requirement for perfection extended to all peace and sin offerings. The animal stood in the worshiper's place, symbolizing that God's justice required a perfect, unblemished sacrifice to cover humanity's sin. Isaiah 53:7 says, the prophet Isaiah famously foretold that the coming Messiah would be led like a lamb to the slaughter. John the Baptist said he was the Lamb of God. Jesus is coming to fulfill all of it and to set man free. God in the flesh is coming to be a lamb to set man free from the sins that have ensnared him for all of eternity since the beginning of time. And I can't help it. I mean, if you're a sinner, understand that Jesus and his perfect innocence stepped in the place of the punishment that you deserve because you're a sinner. For the sin that you committed and the shame that you carry, he took it all away. They will strip him of his clothes. They will put a crown of thorns on his head, and they will mock him, and they will beat him, and they will crucify him. And through that process, he steps in the place of the Lamb forever on the day of Passover, on the day and the time and the hour of Passover, so that we all may have forgiveness and mercy and even more grace. If you haven't received his salvation and his forgiveness of sins, understand he took it from you already. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to work for it. You just have to receive it. The fact that he already took it away because he is the lamb that went in your place. You can't earn back approval. You can't earn back God's love. You can't get back into God's graces by doing good things. Only Jesus did that. And he restores us to God. He restores us to heaven. He takes away our sins. Pray with me. If you've never prayed this prayer, God, forgive me of my sins. Jesus, I thank you that you took them away on the cross and that you came in the place. You came as the innocent, perfect lamb to take away even my sins. And I receive your forgiveness. I give you my heart, and let me start all over again, God, with you. If you prayed that prayer, email me at messagetokings@gmail.com. Talk to you next week.